this video until after you do the discovery activity, because the discovery activity, looking at that and trying to work through that kind of on your own and noticing patterns and kind of making up your own rules for what's going on and noticing what's happening to those exponents is going to be a lot more beneficial than me just telling you what's going on. All right. At the end of the day, that's going to be how you remember it more. Okay. But what I do want to talk about is your second assignment. So the actual problems that you have to do. There's just a couple of them that I want to go over, and I want you to write what I'm about to say down somewhere, because remember how we used don't call me after midnight for multi-step equations. What else? We use please excuse my dear Aunt Sally for order of operations. We have another rule. Well, actually, I think I'm pretty much the only one that I've come across that has like an actual order of things to go in. But over the years, I've found it more successful for students instead of just saying, oh, just do whatever you want first. We're not going to do that. So our new acronym is going to be Purple Zebras Never Do Math. Okay? Purple Zebras Never Do Math, which clearly because we don't have purple zebras. But this is the order that we're going to go in, you all, and I would advise you to write this down. I'm hoping that you can see everything on here. Some of it's erased, I'm sorry, as I was moving down here. So you don't know what this power rule thing is yet. Okay, we're not learning that until tomorrow. You don't know what this is yet, so don't worry about that. But that's your P, so purple. And then next, so you're going to do the power rule, then you're going to move on to the zero rule. So the zero rule is what we're kind of working on right now. So anything to the zero power is a what? You should be able to know that by now after doing the first assignment. So the zero rule, so purple zebras, never, okay, this is your N. So after we do the power rule and the zero rule, then and only then can we move on to the negative exponent rule. Okay, and a lot of other teachers don't do it this way, but I just feel like we're more successful when we have to have like a specific order that we go in. So we're going to go power rule, zero rule, negative rule. So purple zebras never do math. So this D is going to be your division rule. So you already know how to do that. You subtract the exponents, okay? So after division rule, then you're going to move on to the multiplication rule. So when you multiply variables, you add their exponents. So purple zebras never do math, okay? Power rule, zero rule, negative rule, division rule, multiplication rule. All right, so there are 5 rules in total. So the only one that we haven't learned at this point is power rule. So this one is kind of confusing. That's why I'm saving it for its own day and last. So let's go, keeping this in mind, we're gonna go ahead and do a couple of problems on the actual assignment with the problems. Now, if you wanna pause this and write this down, I would advise you to do that. I really wasn't gonna talk about this until after the power rule, but there are a couple problems in here where we're still kind of working in this general area on this. So I want to make sure that we do know this right now. Okay, so we're going to do number 8. So we're going to do number 8 first. So we have 2x to the 0 power divided by x to the negative 3. And here's the reason why I want you to go in a specific order. Because technically these two variables are being divided, right? But we don't want to jump just straight to the division rule, okay? That's not going to work. I mean, it could work, but we're going to have a lot of negatives and it's going to be very, very confusing. So I need you to breathe and just take one step at a time. Okay, purple zebras never do math. So we don't know the power rule, so that's done. All right, now we move on to the zero rule. So we do have a variable to the 0 power. Now you should know this, anything to the 0 power, whether it's a number or a variable, any variable or number to the 0 power is 1. Okay, that's just a rule, and you should have already learned that with a discovery assignment. That's just an exponent rule it's very, very hard to explain. But when we come back to school, if you want me to explain further than what that assignment did, I totally will, okay? Especially if you're going into calculus. So what we want to do is the 0 rule. So let's only do that right now. That's it. We're going to change this to a 1. okay, because x to the 0 power is 1. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to change that to a 1. So I'm going to put an equal sign, and then I'm going to turn it around. So that's 2 times 1 over x to the negative 3, just like this. Okay, so all I did was only the 0 rule. I changed this x to the 0 power to 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an equal sign and just do 2 times 1, all right? So 2 times 1 is clearly 2, right? So we're going to have 2 over x to the negative 3. Now, negative exponents are not allowed in math land. No. They're illegal in math land. So we have 2 over x to the negative 3. So now we've done the 0 rule. Then we can move on to the negative exponent rule. All right. So this x to the negative 3, we can't deal with that. We have to turn this negative 3 somehow into a positive 3. And you should have learned that the way that we do that is we literally just flip the orientation of the variable. So it's not, but let's just say that x to the negative 3 was on the top. We would move it to the bottom, okay? And that turns the exponent positive. So keeping that in mind, even if it's on the bottom, if we change this to the top, so if we flip this x to the negative 3 to the top, this exponent becomes positive. So this is what this is going to look like. It's going to be 2x to the positive 3. And that's going to be your answer, okay? So all I'm asking for is that your answer doesn't have any type of negative exponents at all, okay? So all I did was take this x to the negative 3, I moved it up top, and when I moved it up top, clearly there's no denominator anymore, so it shouldn't look like a fraction. And when you move it to the top or flip it, quote unquote, it becomes positive. So this would be your answer. Let me know if you have any questions on this problem. This one's kind of basic, but there is one that I did want to get to, and I was like, oh, that might be a problem. Let's see. Okay, I think it was number 13. It's number 13, yeah. Number 13. So we're going to go ahead and do that one. Don't know where I put my eraser here, but so number 13. So keep in mind that a lot of these don't have the 0 rule in it, okay? But if it does have the 0 rule, we have to change that to 1. So number 13 is x to the 3rd over 3x to the negative 4th. Okay, so it's like that. X to the 3rd over 3x to the negative 4th. Now remember, we do power rule. We don't know what that is yet, so we're not doing that, clearly. And then we got to move on to the 0 rule, where there's nothing with a 0 power on this, so we move on, okay? Purple zebras never do math. So we have P, Z, done. Now we move on to the N. Okay, that is the negative exponent rule. So we do have this negative 4 here, this x to the negative 4th. So I want you all to think about what we're going to do to this x to the negative 4th to make it positive. All right, I'm going to give you like 15 seconds to think about that. So, like the other problem, to make any type of exponent from a negative to a positive, all you have to do is flip the orientation of it. So if it's on the top, you move it to the bottom and it becomes positive. If it's on the bottom, you move it to the top and it becomes positive. So it should look like this, you all, right now. So it should look like x to the 3rd, x to the positive 4 over 3. All right, that's going to be your next step. So all I did was I took x to the negative 4th and put it up top to make it positive. Now we're not done, okay? We're not done. I need you all to think about what rule this looks like right here. What rule this looks like right here. So we've done power rule, we didn't have that. 0 rule, we didn't have that. Negative rule, we had to do that. Now we move on to division rule. There's no variables being divided here. So we move on. There are variables being multiplied, okay? This x to the 3rd and x to the 4th are being multiplied. Now you're probably like, why? Well, just like when we have like 3x or 2x or 10x or whatever, when those two things are next to each other, that means they're being multiplied, okay? So x to the third and x to the fourth, since they are next to each other, that means that they're being multiplied, all right? Multiplication is the operation that's going on between these two things. So I need you all to think about, so there's only one more step. Use your multiplication rule. So what happens to these exponents when we multiply variables? All right, so I want you to try to figure out that answer. You have about 30 seconds. Okay, go ahead and turn it around. So your answer should be x to the 7th over 3. Because, remember, excuse me, when you multiply these variables, you add the exponents. So you do 3x's, 4x's, so you do 3 plus 4, and that is x to the 7th, okay? And this is going to be your final answer. So no negative exponents, no zero exponents, and you have to make sure that if two variables are being divided or multiplied, that you go ahead and simplify that as well. All right, so if you all have any questions on that problem, you can go ahead and ask them. Please ask me for help if you need it, because this is not easy, and I'm not going to say it is. There's one more thing that I do want to talk about. This is, yeah, I lost my eraser. I don't know what happened to it here. Let's just say that there was something like, I don't know. I'm gonna make something up because I don't think there's actually one on here. But I do want you to write this down. I do want you to pay attention. If there was something like, I'm going to go ahead and like kind of congregate an example here. Okay, something like this. So I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to write that down. Okay, 10 seconds to write that down. I don't think that there's anything as hard as this, though. I just want to kind of bring it to your attention before we start doing things that are hard like this. Oh. Okay. So things like this, I need you to follow your rules, follow the order of your rules, and just breathe, because there's a lot going on here. And it does get a lot harder than this, unfortunately, but I'm just trying to prepare you for what's coming. So remember, purple zebras never do math. Okay, power rule, we don't know what that is. It's not here. Zero rule, it's not here. Then we move on to the negative rule. We see that there is an x to the negative 2 right here. So I want you to go ahead and circle that. So I need you to think, how would we change this x to the negative 2 power to a positive? All right. Well, just like the other problems, and just like you learned on your discovery assignment, you would just move this whole thing, so quote unquote flip it, okay? Move this to the bottom, and it makes this exponent positive. So what I mean by that is it's gonna be 6 over 2 x to the third x squared, just like this. So all I did was move x to the negative 2 to the bottom to make it positive. That's all I did. Right, just like this. Now, we've done the negative rule. Now we would move on to the division rule. So this is why I wanted to bring this to your attention. We see that a 6 and a 2 can be divided. I want you to go ahead and treat numbers just like numbers. All right, that's all I want you to do. When you go to the division rule, you're going to divide numbers just like you would in normal real life. You're going to do 6 divided by 2. That's it. We don't have any variables to divide, though, so keep that in mind. We just have numbers to divide. So treat numbers just like numbers. So you would do 6 divided by 2, and that's 3. So we would have 3 on the top, okay? Then we would have x to the third and x squared on the bottom. Okay, so all I did was the division rule, but with just regular numbers. We know how to divide regular numbers, right? So we did 6 divided by 2 is 3. Then we have x to the third, x squared on the bottom. So all I did was just simplify this part. Okay, we still have one more step. So I'm going to put an equal sign down here. We still have one more step. These two things are being multiplied, x to the third and x squared. They're next to each other. They're being multiplied. Now, remember that when you multiply variables, you add their exponents. So the answer here would be 3 over x to the 5th, right? Just like that. So all I did was add 3 and 2 together, and that's how I got x to the 5th. Okay, so just let me know if you have any questions about this. Like I said, after we learn the power rule, we have another thing coming. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I don't want to scare you by any means, but it's important for me to kind of prepare you for what's coming because it's not easy. Okay, this unit is not easy at all. Let me know if you have any